like chat, this Persona 3 Reload is one of those games where for the longest time people didn't think it would happen. People didn't think it would be a real thing. Everybody thought, oh, Persona 3 FES is like perfect. It should not be, well, not perfect, but it should only get like the port treatment. It should get like a remaster treatment. It should never be touched as a, oh, let's remake,
Yeah.
And then Persona 3 Portable happens, and then we already know the story of how that went. Like, it was
AI
mainly
upscaling.
the AI upscaling, all that stuff.
No cutscenes because they treated it more like a visual novel.
Literally. And it's like, and it really is one of those things where you have Portable to appease the FemC fans, which is understandable. And then it's like, you got people wondering, but like, where's Persona 3 FES? When are we gonna get like a port version, a remaster, updated version of that game in today's world? With the only addition is adding like the party control, right? And then you have things flying around that, okay, well, they can because the source material got lost. So like the source code, that thing people use as an excuse. I mean, Sonic Unleashed never got ported because Ooga Booga, they lost the source code, so I guess they can't port Sonic Unleashed. You goddamn it, Sega. So going back to Persona 3 Reload, it really is one of those things where for the longest time, it was an idea. It's like, what if Persona 3 got remade? It's been long enough. Persona 3, unironically, Persona 3 is the game that saved Atlas. If you guys don't understand the history, Atlas was at a really tough spot during that time, like in the early 2000s after Persona 2, Innocence and Internal Punishment. It's like those games did well, but not well enough to say, alright, so if we don't make another game and that game doesn't pop off, this might be the end, right? Of Atlas as a studio, as its own independent developer. So when they made Persona 3, they put so much love into that game. That's why Persona 3 is by far probably like the most beloved game out of the whole entire series, is because Persona 3, at a time where Japan was at a state where suicidal rates were so high, depression was so high at that time. Like, this game was like a message to those people in Japan, like, we understand the desperation, the depression, the sadness, the despair that is going on in the society during that time. But we want this game to show you that there's so much more to life, that death is not the only thing to look forward to. There's so many things in between life and death to really explore and just experience. And during that time, this game was so important to Japan, the player base in Japan, because it really embodies the message of, well, damn, death might take us all one day, but it does not mean it needs to take us now. Instead, let's appreciate the people we have around us now. Let's appreciate being alive now and take our time to do things and, experience, explore, and live life the best way we can until that happens, because death can happen to any of us at any point. That's literally the central theme of Persona 3. It's like, death will take us all eventually, but it doesn't mean we gotta sit there and wait for it. Like, let's live our lives until that day comes. Like, So, and it's really, Persona 3 is really special in that regard of like spreading that message. And then of course, Persona 3 was one of those games that really defined JRPG. Like, no doubt, if you think of JRPG as the genre, you cannot leave out Persona. Persona was a part of that, like, I guess you could say that popularity spike when it came to JRPGs, because you had like the SMT series, the Shin Megami Tensei series, like that was before Persona was, technically Persona, well, backstory, Persona was part of Shin Megami Tensei before they separated with P5, but we don't talk about that. But Shin Megami Tensei was one of those JRPGs along with Final Fantasy, along with the Chrono series and all these different JRPGs. But in the 2000s, Persona really was one of those games that really like took it to the next level, and then all the RPGs at the time took over. Like, if you guys don't know, for all the kids in this chat that don't know, the PlayStation 2 was the home of so many great JRPGs. And the reason why I say this is because even my dad told me that, because he has so many JRPGs on that console. It was like that was the home of those, like, that many games in that category. And Persona to be up there, to be like one of the best selling JRPGs on that console and one of the best Persona games to sell, next to Persona 4 when that came out, and then Persona 5 absolutely blew everything out the water. Persona 5, and here's the other thing. Persona 5, yeah, it will be known as like the game that technically made Persona mainstream, that made Persona like one of the biggest IPs out there now, probably the most one of the most valuable IPs of Sega now.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta remember who really started the trend. It was Persona 3. Persona 3, in a sense, Persona 3 saved like itself, the series itself, and it saved Atlas. If it wasn't for Persona 3, Atlas would not be here. And that's why I appreciate Persona 3 so much, and Psycho appreciates it too, because we wouldn't have never got Persona 4. We would never got Persona 5. And God knows how much Persona 5 changed the lives of so many people. Psycho is one of those people. Persona 5 changed a lot of perspectives, dog.
I wouldn't be able to sit here with a fucking poster of a goddamn Persona 4 character from inside of Persona 5 had it not been for Persona 3 to even exist.
Persona 3 was... And like, here's the thing, and I know I'll probably, if people do see this video, they will say, oh, but Persona 1 and 2 deserve remakes more than Persona 3. And there's an argument, yes. It really is. Like, Persona 1 and 2 definitely deserve remakes. They're probably outdated. So outdated. It more than likely should have got a remake before Persona 3 because of how outdated, like Psycho said, it is. But I understand why Persona 3... for starters, Persona 3 was the most requested remake when they did that poll. I don't know if I can find it, chat. But there was a Persona remake poll. And this was only in Japan. This was for Japan, chat. And let me find it real quick.
I just wonder how they're gonna do it, because once again, I feel like if they really wanted to, it might be a little bit too late for it, as well, once again, the main singers of, well, unless they do what they did this time, you know, have her also sing the Persona 1 and 2 stuff, you know what I'm saying? Of course, they do have, like, I think her name is Asami or something like that.
Yeah, Asami,
to sing behind the tracks and whatnot, but it's like, I just wonder how they would translate the game over, because mind you, the style between Persona 1 and Persona 2 is drastically different from how Persona 3 and onwards is. So is it like, are they going to keep it the same way as it was before and make it really fucking boring? Or are they going to change it into the style of the current Persona games, which, once again, I don't know how they would do that, because the focus wasn't living by a calendar day system, you know what I'm saying? It's been more of like, you go to these objectives until you beat the game, as far as my knowledge goes.
You know, I think I think Persona 1 and 2 is going to be another topic we'll get into later. I think that's because I really do want to talk about those games, because inevitably they will get remakes. But for right now, chat, if you look at this poll that's on my screen, even if I have to like zoom in, yeah, Japan wanted... And here's the thing, it's tied. This is tied with Persona 2, so inevitably we're going to get a Persona 2 remake. That's a guarantee. But there's a reason why Persona 3 is also up here, tied at number 1, and it's because Persona 3 has changed so many lives during that time. And like I said before, it's such a important piece into Atlas history. This is an important piece, like, in JRPG history, because this game in general just has so much meaning packed behind a story, and how they handle so many strong themes surrounding it, especially with the suicide, depression, life and death, like the way they went about it. Like, you wouldn't get that with any other game, honestly. Like, it's been like, at least during that time, you didn't get that with any other game. And of course, it's like, it's so unique and different, because it's like you have like a high school student perspective, where he's like, you got these teenage kids, you know, living life until like all these creatures in the shadows start popping up at midnight for the dark hour in Tartarus and all that stuff going on there. And then it's like, okay, well, you have these teenage kids fighting shadows, you know, trying to protect reality, blah, 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 and trying to get to the top and figure out what the mysteries are of it. But it goes so far into it, further than that, that really sticks out. Now, I don't want to get too much into gameplay because the gameplay is another topic, you know, whether it was good for its time, which it probably was, but then years later it was outdated. The gameplay of Persona 3 is outdated, which is why they're fixing it with their remake, right? And that's the thing, is like, that's what I feel like they're gonna live up to in terms of gameplay, is that the gameplay is going to be very good. It's going to remind you a bit of Persona 5 because that's the inspiration they have in terms of like making a old game as Persona 3 into a modernized one. And it's going to be incredible the way they added like the new abilities, like I don't know, I'm pronouncing correctly, the De-Urge abilities that you can do with your personas now. And and then there's other gameplay stuff, like in terms of like leveling up your social links. I'm assuming there's other stuff that deals with potentially unlocking things for your main character, because the other thing too was your main character was able to use different weapon types, but
Yeah.
we have not seen any of that in the actual trailers so far. But I would assume they wouldn't take that out and would leave it into those types of like social link events that you have at nighttime, that they show in the trailers, because it's such a unique detail that even if they took it out, it wouldn't be a big deal, honestly, because not that many people really care about it, especially the new people. But I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it in for the OGs, because it's, you know, it's something cool, something unique that if people want to use that gameplay style, it's there, it's accessible, you know.
Oh yeah.
So in terms of gameplay, I think they would definitely live up to that. In terms of story for Persona 3 Reload, I don't expect anything to change. Here's the thing though, and this is why I propose to you, Psyker. If they were to add something or to change something, would it really deviate too much of the uniqueness, or maybe not uniqueness is the word to use, but like, would it really affect Persona 3 in the way of, okay, so we know Persona 3 has this rich story that is being modernized, but if they were to add something or to change something, would it make you feel a certain way at that point if it were to happen as you're playing?
Like, it really depends, because like, once again, if it's something about the weapons did not feel, once again, like, in its time, it might have been like a modernity to be like, oh wow, he can use different weapons and stuff like that, right? But it doesn't feel like such a pivotal piece of point to keep inside. So it's like, it really depends on what the change they're doing is, because if it's just a regular, I like the new system that they're adding in, because it actually makes the game 10 times more fucking possible than what they did before.
Right.
Probably even 100 times more possible, just because of the entire system in general. But honestly, I think as long as they still keep in mind like the original work of like what they're making and just adding more onto it, there's no way Atlas can mess this up, in my opinion. There's literally no way. They have the amazing story, they have all of the characters' backgrounds. All they need to do is just add in more depth to everything that's happened within it, and there's nothing that they do wrong here. There's not a single way they can fuck this up.
So in general, you will say that Persona 3 Reload could end up living up to the expectations that was already left behind for the OG.
Oh yeah, anyone in the OGs, because once again, it's like every single thing that I think the OG has felt, I have felt, right?
Right.
We hear this new singer, we're like, oh no, we want Yumi, we love Yumi, Yumi's the best. We want her to sing these songs. We don't want her to be done yet. She got to keep going. But then it's like, you give it a shot. You give it a little bit more time. You start listening to it. You listen to both the original songs, the mixed versions, the or the newer songs that they created, and then the technically quote unquote remix versions of the song because they have her singing a new different variation of it pretty much. You start to realize that, man, like what Atlas doing here isn't overwriting the original, but they're just modernizing it. They're bringing a newer aspect of community in.
Right.
It's not like there's no reason to hate on the game. People have said that the games look too much like Persona 5. I don't know how the fuck you expect them to make it look like Persona 3 in this time. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, you're telling me like
that's such an interesting thing because the argument of, oh yeah, they're Persona 5 and Persona 3 is like, well, do you want them to use chibis for Persona 3? Do you want them to start using like Persona 2 type graphics in a modern day society with PS5 type of engineering and technology that could enhance a Persona game? Do you really want them to go that route? Like
we can pretend like the argument you're making here makes sense.
Also,
the Persona 3 game looks like the Persona 5, acting like what they made previously wasn't fucking Persona.
And another thing I want to point out too is that when I look at this game and all the footage they've shown already, I honestly don't get hints of Persona 5 at all. Like at first when they showed it back in June, okay, I can understand like, oh shit, yo, they took the inspiration from Persona 5 when it comes to the menus and when it comes to like how the characters look kind of and blah blah. But the more you see it over time as they reveal more and more through the character trailers and the gameplay trailers that they keep showing, is like people kind of forget that if you were to compare this to Persona 5, Persona 5 still has its own unique style of how these characters look. Like, here's a shocker to you, to the people that do make comparisons. Persona 5 was made on a old-ass engine that dated way back when the PlayStation 3 was, like, in its mid-lifespan. So, like, you're comparing a Unreal Engine 5 game to a old-ass engine that they used for Persona 5 that was supposed to come out on the PS3. So,
yeah,
it's such a weird thing of, oh, the Persona 5 and Persona 3, where in reality, honestly, I don't really see it. Maybe the character models do kind of remind you, but what do you want the character models to look like? You want them, what?
It's like, I just, it's such a weird argument to make. Like, that's just always been the weirdest part. Oh, it looks like Persona 5. How do you make a Persona game nowadays that does not look like Persona 5, the successor of Persona, pretty much?
Literally.
If we think about it in modern day, how do you make something like Persona 3? Is it the retro aspect feel? Is it just you want the game to look crunchy, 8-bit, like doo-doo graphics? Like, what do you like? They already got horrible shading inside the game, but like, the majority, it's like you look at the menus. You can look at the UI right here, right now. This UI, they're gonna say it's Persona 5. Why? Because they see that stupid little shadow behind the character and they go, oh my god, Persona 5 shadow. Oh my gosh, you look at the text box, it's Persona 5. And it's like, you realize that this is made by the same fucking people who made Persona 5, right? Persona 5 is the best rendition of any Persona game visually can be at right now. So the point of just saying that it looks so much like Persona 5 feels like the weakest argument I've ever heard because it's not constructive. It's not. And you're saying the game looks like another game they fucking made and not elaborate.
It really is such a, and that's why I ignored those type of people, especially when it's not even a meme. It's like they're trying to actually like, no, bro, like it looks like Persona 5. It's like, dude, are we going to neglect the fact that Persona 5 has such a unique style that is currently not present in this gameplay that I'm looking at right now for Persona 3? This looks, bro,
Tell me you walked through a palace in Persona 5 and saw shit like this.
If you were to ask me what I would think a Persona 3 remake would look like maybe, 2 years ago, when I'm already familiar with the series due to my friends, I would say I expect Persona 3 to look like this because I don't think the style itself changes. You don't change a style of a game that already has its own unique style. That's not how remakes work. It's like if I were to say, oh yeah, let's remake Sonic Unleashed, but change it into like Frontier style. Let's make Sonic Unleashed into Sonic Frontiers. Why would you do that? that
Yeah.
completely neglects the charm that these games have. So
Yeah,
you're literally
you can't-
just, it's like you have to be blind. I'm sorry to say that, but you gotta be blind
You're
to
taking
see.
away from the entire experience just
Yeah.
by saying, "Oh, it looks like Persona 5." You can have a little bit more constructive criticism when you say that, man, the way that they did the UI, the combat UI, where it used to be like a revolver, like the chamber of a gun, right? That was fucking sick. So it's really sad to lose small stuff like that. Yeah, I think those parts do kind of suck. But at the end of the day, I'm not sitting here and being like, oh, it's like Persona 5's menu. Persona 5's menu looks so drastically different from how Persona 3 is. Persona 3 Reload, literally, its menu is literally just like the original with modernized changes. The closest thing that it can probably be compared to is Persona 4's in terms of UI.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand why it would be such a big loss in like, because mind you, once again, the style that makes Persona 5 is based a lot of jazz. They have a whole lot of electric piano, organs, you know, jazzy type feels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Persona 3 is more rockish. It's just more kind of in your face, loud, abrupt. It's dangerous. It gives you all of these vibes. So it's weird to say that, oh, the characters from back then, oh, they don't look the same. It's like, you realize when you work with a style, it's kind of hard to deviate from it. You can say they Persona 5 the fucking characters, but if you ask me, it's literally they took the booty graphics right in front of you right now and said, let's make it look like an actual character. Let's make it look like, I don't get what they wanted. And to be honest, it's just, it feels so invalidated by this point. It doesn't matter because once again, me personally, I'm excited for what this remake is how it's gonna breathe new life into these characters. You can see it alone just by within the comparisons themselves of how much work they're putting into it.
Yeah.
I'm super glad with what they've given me.
And that's oh, no, I cut you off. Continue.
Oh yeah, it's exactly what's going to create the experience in such an original way. Not everything needs to be one-to-one for me. What I want is just an improved game that can make the game so much more impactful through its amazing story. The more they focus on that fucking story, the better we all win. Because that's what it has. That's what it has. That's all they need to do.
And that's
I think they've done so far.
And that's the thing. My expectation is that it's like this game by far is like the hypest release of Persona that we have for a while, because yeah, you had like the spin-offs and stuff in between when Persona 5 Royal came out and until now. But those were just spin-offs. In terms of like an actual generated hype, like Persona 3, bro, like this is just something that came out of nowhere for those that weren't in the know of the rumors. And here's another thing I want to point out. There was constant rumors of this game being a remake. Like, it was rumors that dated, like, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it was always talked about once in a while within the Persona community. I've seen videos within the community, like, from David Cast and, what's it called, Naokami and Nam's companion. Like, the topic has always been brought up of, like, oh, what if they do a Persona 3 remake? Oh, are they gonna do a Persona 3 remake? Oh, there's new rumors that a remake might be coming, blah, blah. And we haven't seen anything for the past, like, 3-4 years since, like, it's been talked about. But, now that we have it, it's like, this is the hypest thing, because here's another detail. This is the first remake that Alice has ever done for any of their games. Factually.
Yeah.
I think I'm not wrong on this. I double checked to see if they did any type of remake ever in their careers. Alice has never done a remake. So Persona 3 Reload, in my opinion, for this game, I really, and I mean this, I really hope this game sells at least minimum 3 to 5 million copies. Why?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because what does that tell Alice? Oh, So we can make more remakes in Persona. So they are interested in Persona 2 remake. They're interested in Persona 1. Hell, Persona 4 could get a remake in the future. I know Psycho has thoughts on that, which that'll be a separate thing. That'll be a separate video or whatever we do with it, but it gives Atlas the confidence, and that's what I like about releases like these. And that's why I tell people, and I tell myself, ignore those dumb idiots that don't know what they're talking about. This got nothing to do with Persona 5 at all. This should not even be talked about within the same vicinity as Persona 5.
Within comparison, they do not relate. They do not.
And the one thing I hate, and I know it's going to happen, is that these people are going to find a way to be like, well, since the game has been out for like X amount of months, is it as good as Persona 5 Royal though? Like, and I'm not gonna get into that. I already know what those toxic conversations are gonna be. What I will say,
enough time has passed. Was Persona 3 Reload actually good? Yes.
And then there's gonna be the opposite. Persona 3 Reload is better than Persona 5 Royal. It's like, I'm gonna say this right now. Keep them separate, please. I know it's gonna happen regardless, but for me personally, I don't care. They're both their own separate things. They've already been, Persona 3 has already been a separate thing when Persona 5 came out anyways. So why are we gonna go and now compare if Persona 3 Reload is just as good as Persona 5 Royal? It's like, let the game flourish, let the game be its own thing. My expectation is that this remake is gonna do wonders, mainly because you have people who play Persona 5 Royal that never play any other Persona 5 game and enjoy that, and those same people are going to come back to Persona 3 Reload. And you know why?
No.
It's literally because, well, guess what? Regardless if you hate Persona 5 after it blew up the series and people constantly make memes and constantly compare it to Persona 5, it is what it is. But you can't neglect and deny that the huge boom of success that Persona 5 has a huge influence into Atlas' future going forward with the Persona series.
Oh,
and because of that, it's not a bad thing. Because if it wasn't for Persona 5, I don't think that many people will be buying Persona 3 Reload as much as I think they're going to buy right now.
Oh yeah.
There's
no,
so many people waiting to buy this game, more than like in the past if they were to remake the game like in 2016. Think about that. Persona 5 has garnered a lot of people to be like, oh, I recognize Persona. It's the same people that made P5. Yo, Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal is my favorite games. Let me try Persona 3. That's what they're targeting. Because you got a bunch of new people that don't know how important this game is in the past, that now is being modernized, that is being used in the Unreal Engine 5, which, by the way, this is one of the few games you're going to see utilize the engine, the Unreal 5 engine in next gen, because not that many games has Unreal Engine 5 like fully situated in their dev department right now. But the fact that Atlas has already dipped their toes in the engine, and I know it's not going to be perfect, so far it looks good to me, but this tells me that they're going to go 10 times hard when Persona 6 comes out. And well, I'm more likely they are still developing it. But whenever Persona 6 comes out, it's going to look just as good or even better than what we're getting already for Persona 3 Reload. But
yeah,
and Psycho can vouch because I brought up this discussion a while ago. I strongly believe the reason why they're doing Persona 3 Reload now of all times is because this is the testing ground for when they do Persona 6. I think when they started pitching for Persona 6, probably around when they finished Persona 5 Royal, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I think there was even a roadmap to show when they started developing Persona 3 Reload. They started Reload within the same year that they finished and released Persona 5 Royal. So they already had this game in mind. But what does that tell me though? It tells me that they didn't immediately jump ship into Persona 6. Not because they're scared, not because they want to. It's because, hey, let's show how much we appreciate. And you can probably take it all away because of the FemC and the answer and all that, but let's tone it down. Because they did say they want the base vanilla experience of Persona 3. That's their vision, that's what they're going with. Respect it, okay? regardless if you like it or not, regardless if your favorite female character is not in here no more, that's what they wanted to go for. Maybe you'll get that in the future, but tone it down. All right.
For now, that was not their aim.
That was not their aim.
It was
exactly.
remaking the original
Remaking,
on a completely new engine that they haven't
the
used
game
before.
that literally saved their fucking jobs, or at least saved Atlas back then and saved those people's jobs. Okay. What this game embodies right now is the potential of what Atlas games in the future is gonna look like. Persona 6 probably is gonna be another generational defining RPG, just like Persona 5 was. I know people probably might make the discussion of like, oh, what if Persona 3 Reload is like that defining generational thing. Honestly, I feel like that's gonna belong to Metaphor Refantasio. I feel like if they stick the landing with that game, that one will probably be generational. That probably will be like the Persona 5 of like that new IP, right?
Yeah.
But Persona 3 Reload isn't supposed to be that next generational leap for Persona. In my eyes, this is just a testing ground. This is like, we're giving you a remake in this new engine because we value Persona 3. People voted for it to get a remake, so we're going to do it. But they also, and I might be wrong, but if I were to put my mind in somebody else's shoes over there at Atlas developing this game, I'm also thinking I'm using this game as the base, as the foundation of what's to come, of what Persona 6 is going to look like, and what any other IP afterwards going forward will look like. Because I'm going to tell you right now, chat. Also, now that I think about it, I think Shin Megami Tensei 5 was using Unreal Engine 5. So I'm not too sure. I'm going to have to double check that. But I think that was Unreal Engine 4. But what I'm trying to say is that you don't think going forward any SMT remake or any new SMT game is going to be an Unreal Engine 5 looking as good as this? You don't think Persona 6 is going to look like this? You don't think like their new IPs or whatever they bring back in the past of Vault JRPGs they had before is not going to look like this? This is just the beginning for Atlas, and this is what makes me excited. Because when this game does sell millions of copies,
oh yeah,
this game is going to be, I don't expect it to sell like Persona 5 amount of copies, but I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. But if Persona 3 Reload does manage to do something crazy when it sells, it opens up doors for Atlas to say, hey, we're going to give you Persona 2. We're going to give you Persona 1. We're going to give you Persona 4 in the next 15, 20 years. You're going to get all those games remade, redone in the next gen consoles, whether it's the PlayStation 6 and the Xbox Infinity and PlayStation 7. Like, our children are going to be playing remakes of the games that we already play in the future because of Persona 3 Reload. Because their first initial action in making a remake, a proper remake, is already showing success. So my expectation is that it will live up to the hype. It makes a reason why it wouldn't. As long as they don't touch anything within the story, as long as the gameplay is fluid and is fun for everybody, which is why, for those that are the OGs or are complaining, oh, they're adding too much stuff, it's just like Persona 5 when they added the baton pass and blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry.
Do we remember how that gameplay was like? Do you guys remember?
I'm going to tell you right now, for all the hardcore JRPG people that played back in the 2000s and are complaining that today's RPGs are not hard enough, they're not difficult enough, look, you grew up with that era, and that's cool. But that doesn't mean that that's the era that game developers nowadays have continuously, like, go back to or cater to.
We're not here for hard game. We're here for good game.
And that gets to the point of topic of when it comes to this remake. I already know Persona 3 Reload is not gonna be hard as shit. That's why it's pissing a lot of people off when they see like the new gameplay features. It's literally because, well, back then Persona 3 was a very hard ass game. When you slide that shit to hard difficulty, that shit was hard. Psycho give vouch. It was hard.
Game was hard enough, it gaslit me into thinking, oh yeah, maybe I should go hard. You know what? I'm super glad I didn't go hard, but guess what? You know the difference between easy and normal? easy is the exact same difficulty, but they give you 10 continues from the last battle that you were just in, meaning that the only real difference between the other two was, hey, were you actually prepared for this battle? Do you want to continue it? And, you know, get like 10, mind you, 70-hour long game, 10 continues.
Yep.
10 times you can fuck up. Otherwise, you gotta reload that last save file. If you didn't save for 3 hours, buddy, that's 3 hours you lost right there. And that's your fault. That's your fault. So the only difference between the two is the game respects your time if you just actually happen to suck a little bit and it was like, oh, I made a mistake there, I can actually do this. Or, nah, go to the last save file, bud. Persona 3 FES did not respect my time whatsoever. It said you will struggle and that is it. This game, like, and it's like, I don't get why people think, oh, they're making the game easier, blah 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 blah. You do realize that they can still have the game be decently hard even with this new system in place, right?
I'm gonna remind you people real quick. The only way this game could be easy is if you press the buttons that make it easy. You don't have to use these new features that they added. They just literally put it there because, oh, by the way, if you're facing a challenge and you just want to zoom through this battle, here you go. Here's the new quality of life changes that we had. You see this thing that they just did with the SP thing, which is another change, a quality of life change, by the way, because I don't think you could do this back then with Fuka with the SP. Okay?
No. You can only just change the music. That's it.
You don't have to do this. It's just something that they put for those that just want an enjoyable experience and that people that just wants to play play it the way they want to play. But if you're a hardcore fucking JRPG person, go take off your clothes and game. Don't use
you
any of the
tailored
features.
your own experience with this game.
Exactly.
You literally do.
Exactly.
It's not like the game's forcing you to use each one of these mechanics, but they're literally there to make the game more possible because
and I'm gonna tell you this right now. Another thing too, which I think this is like everybody agrees is a good change. The way the floors are in Tartarus, it does get boring after a while. So
100%.
So, and that's another thing I like is that now going to each floors, they're adding stuff where you could like break stuff now to gain currency that you could use to spend. I think now there's like more chests available to like search for. There's even a feature, I don't know if it's in here, I think it was in one of the demos like last year, but apparently there's a secret boss in certain floors you can fight to get like outfits. I think I could be wrong. There's
cool.
like, I don't know if it's like outfits or you have to fight them to get like certain weapons or whatever. But as I'm trying to find it, they're adding shit that makes the game much more enjoyable compared to the vanilla and FPS where I'm gonna tell you right now, you're just climbing floors, you're just fighting shadows. What is there that's so exciting to go to Tartarus for? Nothing. You're just climbing. You're just trying to level up your characters, which by the way, it takes a while to level up your characters. And Persona, another change they made in the future Persona games, there was no XP share in the original Persona 3. There wasn't. You had to individually level up each Persona, and that was difficult as
if you fought a boss, if you fought the enemy, and all of a sudden you were on the wrong Persona, get fucked, bro. That XP, the majority of XP you get literally goes to your character anyways, not the Persona. How do I know this? Because I held on to a level 3 Orpheus practically throughout, like, my almost entire playthrough, and by the closest part of endgame, I saw him at level 8, and I sit here and I go, what the fuck did I do with you the entire goddamn game? You are level 8, and I kept you on the team for basically the entire experience. But no. And even still, the only moves he could learn was like Agi, and I don't think his moveset ever expanded past like 3 fucking moves. Hold up. Let me fact check on this. I might be going crazy. Because
like literally.
Hold on. I gotta know. Because I promise you, he just Persona 3. Let me see your stats. You know the moves he has throughout the entire game, right? The first Persona you get. He has Bash, Agi, and Tarunda. That's it. That's fucking it. You get all of his moves at level 6. It does not expand further than that.
Yeah, that's, man.
The only thing you could say, I guess that technically does cover for it, is the fact that they had the fusion spells, which honestly was hella useful, yeah. But once again, if I'm fighting nearly one of the final few bosses in the fucking game with a level 8 persona, trying to heal up my people, if that enemy hits me once regardless of anything, I'm taking so much damage because his persona is underleveled. I might not be, but the persona is, and that affects me a ton.
And Ultra makes a good point in the chat. It's like, okay, so you make a game easy so you can cater to an enjoyable experience. Like, there's gonna be some difficulty when you go to like hard mode, but it's not gonna be that difficult to where nobody can do it, right? But but then you got people that's gonna complain, oh, this shit is too easy, blah blah blah. So then, if they add a patch where, okay, you have a very hard, extreme difficulty, you know, then you're gonna get the same people, oh, well, this shit is too hard, or this shit is too unfair. This is why you always keep difficulty at a middle ground. You don't do crazy easy mode, you don't do crazy hard mode. You keep it in the middle, because that's exactly what you're gonna run into, is too many people complain about one side or complain about the other side. And for JRPGs, like I said, in modern day, you're trying to cater to a bunch of people that normally don't play JRPGs. I'm gonna be honest, okay? If the best way to get those people to play your game is if you cater to making the game accessible and enjoyable when playing, whether they're playing easy, normal, or hard. And if they want to test themselves, Merciless is never going anywhere. They're not going to take Merciless out the game. They will always have Merciless after you beat the game. So if they want to go and challenge themselves, okay, Merciless. Now, granted, people said Merciless was still kind of easy with Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal.
That was because they just made a mistake on their fucking numbers. That was it.
They
made a mistake.
That was just it. So if they kind of fix that now with Reload, then okay, then you have your difficulty for people that want to challenge themselves. But when you do games like these in today's society, back then was a whole different era. Back then people wanted their games hard, and that's totally understandable. But we're dealing with Timmies now that just wants to go and press buttons, okay? You're dealing with kids who is 13 and older that just want to pick up a game and play. They don't want to worry about going to a fusion calculator, searching up which personas to fuse to get the best powerful one, or which one is more powerful for this boss, or how to do this.
Because let's not pretend Persona 3 FES basically required that shit. Like, it wasn't like Persona 5 where you could just make something and then it just happened to turn out to be... No. There was right and wrong personas. There were. And if there wasn't right and wrong personas, then it was just you're underleveled. Go and grind. Not everybody wants to sit down and kill these stupid ass enemies only to die to one of them after like 2 fucking hours of straight grinding, to have to sit down and be like, I gotta grind for another 2 hours to get back to where I was. No, not anyone. And it's like, you have to realize people have lives. People have shit that they want to do. I don't want to sit here and be stuck on the same game for 4 fucking months when I know there could be like 15 other games I can talk about at the same fucking time.
And that's the thing. I'm gonna tell you right now. People are not looking at Persona 3 Reload and thinking, damn, I can't wait to spend like a month playing it. Because realistically, I don't think this game is gonna like make people like play for a whole month. This game is long enough to be beatable in 2 weeks. If you were to stream it every day, or you were to just play it every day when you get the chance, it's possible to beat it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But back then, Persona 3, the original version, you would spend a month. Maybe you would spend even more.
You would have to hate yourself if you wanted to get through that game that fast. I learned very quickly that shit was not happening.
Bro thought he was playing Persona 4 Golden. Nope, he was not playing that.
I was not playing P4 that year. Nope.
Persona 3 is different. It's a different beast. Which is why it's lovable at the time and still lovable to this day, because of that difficulty. And I commend that. I love that.
It's difficult. Like, trust me.
But for a remake, I don't want that in a remake. I don't want people to suffer and hate the game. Because you know what happens when they start doing that shit? Then it's like, then you have this perception for those that are thinking about picking up the game. Oh, is the game really that bad with the difficulty spike? Like, is it really that difficult? Maybe I don't want to play it. Maybe I don't want to try it if it's gonna take me that long to beat this boss, blah, blah. You don't want that. You know why Persona 5 was so successful? It's because it wasn't that difficult. And honestly, good job on Atlas at that point, because
they made you feel awesome practically the entire way fucking through.
You felt
without
awesome.
sitting here making you feel like, oh shit.
Think
like,
about
sure, it's not like every battle was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you
no,
always
because,
felt cool with whatever you were doing.
Bro, it's literally like, think back when you first played P5 Vanilla, when you were beating Kamoshida's ass, when you were beating Akumura's ass, when you were beating Kanashiro's ass, when you were beating Sai's ass. Like, you felt unstoppable. Was it challenging because of the gimmicks? Yeah, but it doesn't mean you couldn't finish the battle. You still finished the battle in one go, or maybe it took you like 3-4 times. That's still fine. But the fact that the fact that you didn't have to spend 50 or to 100 attempts to do one boss, and the reason why I say this is because, Chad, when you climb Tartarus, there's going to be bosses. In the original Persona 3, there's bosses when you climb Tartarus that will make you tear off your hair.
They are the skill
bang
check.
your head and be like, so do I need to change out my whole entire deck of personas to beat this boss? Do I need to switch out characters? Do I need to level them up? And here's another thing, chat. And this is very important. Persona 3 forces you to literally level up personas and characters to get specific moves, because if you didn't have those moves, you were not progressing the game.
Yeah,
that's how bad it was. It was so bad to a point where you could have beat the floor that day, but you had to spend 10-20 days inside of the game in order to unlock stuff from your social links and to level up your personas until you could get back to the same boss 20 days later inside the game.
Yup.
Do people want to go through that in today's society in gaming? No. People have. There's another thing, right? People don't have patience. It's very, very prominent now that people has very low patience when it comes to gaming or anything in general. So, the best way to not piss people off is to just let them play. Let them play however they want. That's why games like Fortnite and all these other multiplayer games, they cater to making a game mode where people don't have to think, they don't have to do all these other crazy mechanics. They can just hop in and play. That's why Zero Build Fortnite exists, so people can drop in and not do building and crank 90s.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with it.
It makes it accessible.
Difficulty does not matter. I mean, wait, hello?
Hello?
Oh, I went deaf again. Oh my lord. Okay. Yeah, no, because I've always like thought difficulty in games do not matter. And the people in particular, right? Obviously, you can relate the difficulty and the struggle that you feel throughout FES, right, to the entire story. It blends in pretty fucking well. And it's what does create an impact on the game. Literally. But you know the reason I cried, right, was not only because they did some fuck shit to me, but imagine getting done fuck shit for over 70 fucking hours throughout the entire game and being like, I don't have to deal with this bullshit no more. Yeah, no, that shit will make you cry.
Yeah, no.
That shit will make you cry when you realize I don't gotta deal with this shit no more.
It's like you cry, not because they, yeah, it was part of it, like, the shit that you witnessed in the story and the characters, but it was mostly, like, back then, it was mostly, like, I finally got through that grueling ass, like, trial of life that Hades himself had sent me.
like, let me tell you, because it's like, for example, when I sit here and if I sit down and I cry about Persona 3, I cry about the story. I cry because it's such a beautiful thing to be able to go through and experience. It's so well done. It's so well explained. It's so well everything. When I go to Elden Ring, let's say a game that I would say is pretty also fucking difficult.
Here's another thing.
Do you see anybody crying when they beat this fucking game?
Here's the other thing. Elden Ring is games that are meant to be hard. That's why when it comes to game difficulty, Elden Ring exists for those that want a challenge, that wants to play a hard game. If you're playing the Elden Ring because you think it's easy, then somebody has lied to you, because that's not what the game is about. It's about challenging yourself, challenging the mechanics, and when you beat bosses that will make you cry and yell for 5 hours until you beat it, that's the game for you. That's the game that if you want to suffer. but you
Exactly.
enjoy suffering. A lot of people don't enjoy suffering. They don't. Elden Ring is successful because, well, there's a lot of people out there that like difficulty. That's why it sells so many copies, because people love difficulty. That's why they cater to Demon Souls and Elden Ring and all that stuff.
Persona 3 is not that fucking game.
Persona
The
in
Persona
general
series is not that
is
game.
not meant to be that way. Back then, yes, it was like that. But no, we cannot do that again today's standard. Especially think about it, especially when we're dealing with it's just like a culture where when you see something like Persona now that's like really mainstream, they just think of it as, damn, I'm gonna go in and talk to characters, get their backstories, learn more about them throughout the story, understand the story, and enjoy it. When it comes to gameplay, they don't really care about the gameplay. They just care, like, they play the game, yes, but they don't think, oh, damn, I need to look up like a guide to like get in this persona, or how to level up this persona to get this move, or which personas to fuse to get this God Jesus type persona. Like, no. They play the game because they want to enjoy it, and when they get to the gameplay part, they just skip through it with their OP personas because they just want to get back to the story. And that's fine if they want to get back to the story. Let them do that.
There ain't no reason to get upset over it. It's like, once again, it's just, you control the entire fucking experience. If you want the game to be easier, there's mechanics to help you on that. It's not like they're automatically, oh, as soon as you get it, it uses it, and then you're forced to use it, blah, 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 right? Let's not, once again, let's not forget with that new mechanic that they entered, basically the resistances thing. Let's not pretend that basically past a certain point, the game just says the enemy has no weaknesses. Good luck. For like the entirety of the game. And it happens early. It happens.
It happens sooner than you think. Now, granted, they change that this time, but
if they change that, then I'd be like, well, damn, like, then why creating that new mechanic? You're just gonna add in the weaknesses. But like, you know, it's like if then there was weaknesses, then there'd be no issue. But like,
yeah,
it's just they just say, nope, the enemy don't got weaknesses. Good luck. Oh, what do you mean that you don't have stuff to debuff them? Oh, well, they have access to a move that basically just one-shots you. Why? Just because.
And the thing is, I like shock value. I like if the game is trolling you and saying, oh, you think you're gonna stop this? Oh no, here's a one-shot move. I think that's funny. But here's the funny part. They don't do that just one time. It's a continuous thing. Every time you get back into the fight, it's like you're getting destroyed. The game is telling you you're not strong enough, even when you think you are.
Yeah. It's like, every single time I've gotten a difficult battle in Persona 5, once again, the only time I ever had to go back was literally because of the Wakaba battle. Literally because of that, because she had that despair shit that would literally basically instant kill you if you didn't get rid of it in like those few turns. Whatever, right?
Yeah. And there's bosses that make you think, which that's another thing that I don't think will be changed. It's like, as long as you bosses make you think, that's part of like the best difficulty. It's like when they do moves and stuff, I would like that to stay, where it's like, okay, maybe I have to change a party member out, maybe I have to use a specific persona and set this character up where they're defensive or they're more SP oriented. Like, I like that.
There's nothing wrong with that. That part was good about the game. The parts I didn't like was when they threw me in a battle and said, hey, so we're also throwing in this person, the person that's actively weak by this person, and I know why they do it, but I think they're a piece of shit for that. 100 fucking percent. They do it because they're like, it's storytelling reasons, but fuck you.
And
it's like, oh, I want to be the best guy. Oh, I want to be like, I'm that king. Then bro's out here getting literally his ass blasted by the enemy 100% because it's like, you can't fight every battle like that, you dumbass.
Yeah, because it's literally because Persona 5, and it's like, the reason why we keep bringing Persona 5, because once again, Persona 5 has like kind of found a formula of how you can bring a casual audience into your game. Persona 5 is like, you can literally go into battle and have that feeling of, I can whoop ass. It's like you go into battle and you're like, okay, well, the game has given me all these mechanics, you know, that I could use when the time is right, or I could just continuously use and keep the battle going to a point where I'm getting closer and closer into fighting. Because here's the thing about Persona 5, which I hope that they kind of do with Persona 3 a little, because they have the potential to do it. the fights are very cinematic because when you're into the fight and the music is playing and you're going through it, and then they cut into like a quick cutscene where it's like dialogue exchange from like the boss, and then the party members are talking to each other. I love that so much, and I hope that's something they added for Persona 3. I really hope.
And also those small segments, I think I know exactly what you were talking about because it's the first thing that shot up in my mind. Where basically you had to send away a party member and keep the enemy's attention as they're going behind to do some sneaky shit in the background.
Which that
type of stuff was those stuff were
that
amazing.
was so unique to P5. I don't think we'll see that again unless it fits a certain theme of what they're going with like whatever Persona game going forward. But that was very. But for Persona 5, that was fucking unique. Like just saying so like I'm gonna sacrifice one of my members to be gone for a bit, and then keep the other 3 like fighting.
Yeah.
And like that like I like that. So So what I'm asking for Persona 3 is like it's the same thing. Like I don't want to go into and like I said, I know it's a nostalgia kick. People back then to this day that played Persona 3 back then, they enjoy just hopping in the battle and continuously thinking and strategizing of how they're gonna beat these bosses, how they're gonna get these weaknesses, how they're gonna penetrate the non-weakable opponents, blah blah. I just want a scenario where I'm going through Persona 3 and I'm going against like these big baddies because there's so many of them in that game. And I just want like that interaction of like, okay, so when you put like a enemy like when you get the enemy's health points to this certain point, then the cutscene kicks in. It's like it's like a catchy where he starts trash talking you mid fight, and then he busts out like a move, like it's like I would like to see more of that in Persona 3 rather than the traditional you're just fighting until you beat the boss, there's no other interactions. It's like no, give me more cinematic points in those fights, and I feel like we are going to get that. I really hope so, especially when we start fighting that other group that Trega and his crew. That's where I feel like we're going to get that, and that's going to excite me so much.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no way we're just going to go into Strega fight.
Shit.
Exactly. I'll be so disappointed if we go into Strega fight and, like, we just fight it. There's no, like, in-between dialogue. It's like, no, give me that. Give me the characterization, please.
Because that's what further deafens the entire fucking thing. It's like, for example, with Persona 5R, with the final boss, where you're both literally just duking it out, and he's saying shit, because that shit he's been holding on to for... That was a powerful ass moment. You're just duking it out. He hits you, you hit him. It's just
literally. It's like
that's powerful storytelling, dog.
Dude, I really could imagine what they secretly cooked up for these battles that we haven't seen, because that's literally just all spoilers. They don't want to show that until we get the games. I could imagine what type of in between cutscenes and dialogue they do for those big fights that we know. But I'm telling you,
that just made me think. Oh my god,
bro! I'm telling you, and now we're getting into more prediction territory. I know this is still talking about like will it live up to the hype, but like I just want to add this, chat. Endgame is going to be so crazy because what they did in Persona 5 Royal when you got to the third semester, and even with vanilla P5 when you got to Yaldabaoth, could you imagine how insane it will be when you're in... I'm not going to spoil it, but like Sakura knows what I'm talking about. When you get to the last part of Tartarus and you fight those people, and then you finally get to Nyx, and then I could only imagine the scenery and the atmosphere with this engine and what they could potentially do, like cinematic, like dramatic wise.
Because like we've already saw a little bit. They already showed us a little bit.
Already showed us a little bit, but I want to know what the hell they cook it for the actual fight. That's chat. If Yaldabaoth was feeding families back then, and then the fight with Maruki in the third semester was feeding families, I could only imagine how insane for a hardcore Persona, like I'm talking about hardcore Persona 3 fans, I could imagine how ballistic they will go when they see that part. When they just finally get to that part. and then the music hits, and then they do like the idea I was proposing, like the in between cutscenes, but it's much more dramatic, and then like I don't know how much they're gonna change battle wise if they're gonna add those little details, but those things really make a game worthwhile. It really truly does. And I wear it with a badge. I take storytelling, characterization, character development, and scenery more to heart than just difficulty. Yeah, sure, difficulty is cool. I like my games a little hard, whatever. But being able to just go through a game and feel so many different emotions all at once, and then those specific parts in the game where it matters the most, Persona 3 is that game that has done that. And then it was the blueprint for Persona 4, and then Persona 5, and whatever, in their own style. But Persona 3 was the much more heavy hitter one. It really is. So it's like, this game is going to be glorious. This game is going to feed families. This game will be enjoyed from a lot of people, whether they play Persona before, or they only play Persona 5, or from all the OGs like all of us that play Persona games like beyond Persona 5. It's like we all experienced all the other medias and all the other games. It's like, this game will be meant for everybody, but it's also a love letter to the real ones, the OGs, man. And if they can execute that landing, and like I said, I'm not talking about those that are arguing, oh, I'm not gonna buy the game because FemC's not in it, or I'm not gonna buy the game because the answer is in it. I'm not talking about those people. They can miss out if they want to, okay? That's their choice. But for the people that don't care about FemC, that don't care about the answer, they just want to play Persona 3 because it's just Persona 3. That's what they grew up with. That's what they got introduced to in like recent years. This is meant for them.
Yeah.
This is the game that either will pull you back into Persona, or is going to be your gateway into being introduced to it. And that's the beauty of it. Because it was crazy, chat. I truly wish I was part of that hype train when Persona 5 was, finally being like released. Because people spend years, because when they first revealed Persona 5, it was like, oh, 2013, it's coming down 2014 holiday. It never did. It's like, it got delayed. And then Persona 5 finally came out in 2016, and everybody lost their shit. It was such a long hype train. And then... And then there was a hype train towards Persona 5 Royal when they finally revealed, oh yeah, by the way, we're making another version of the same game but added stuff. It was like, that was another hype train. Now, thankfully, I was kind of like part of that train because that's when I became friends with Psycho during that time, so I was kind of there for that. But I really wish I was there for the vanilla, because I could only imagine how insane that was when people waited for years for another Persona game after Persona 4. And it was nothing. It was nothing for Persona until Persona 5 was finally like teased with the chairs and stuff. And then you only got snippets year or months after that of what's gonna be in the game, the rumors about what the story's gonna be like, the gameplay changes, all that. And then they keep revealing new stuff, like a new teaser trailer with Joker, but you didn't know his name was Joker at the time. You just see a teenage boy on the train. And then you finally saw a trailer where it was like the open cinematic that they have for Persona 5. They showed that. It was such a good ass hype train.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky I'm able to be a part of this hype train for Persona 3 Reload, because that's what I always wanted to do. I was never truly part of a Persona hype train. This is it. This is the hype train I was finally a part of. I know I didn't make content and all that stuff, but it doesn't mean I wasn't tweeting my ass off every time I saw something Persona 3 related. I was. I'm well aware. But I'm glad I'm in that position to be like, yeah, I was there now. I was there for another huge hype train in this series. And I'm telling you right now, Persona 6 is just gonna be just as big, because it's another number into the series. Is a game that comes after Persona 5 and has a lot to prove unfortunately, because of Persona 5. But that's when we get there. We're not worried about Persona 6. We're worried about Persona 3. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm truly happy about. Is that I can be part of this hype train. I can talk to my friends about it because they're the biggest Persona fans before they met me, and they got me into it. I'm one of those big fans now, and it's like I could talk my ass off day and night about Persona, and now Persona 3 just adds on to the conversation. When everything is said and done, when everybody plays this game, they experience the ending. When I play it, everybody else plays it. Persona 3 is going to be a talking point for a while until Metaphor comes out, and we see, and Metaphor is going to be like hopefully a generational piece right there. We're going to see how much that impacts the JRPG category going forward. And Scott the Waz, get out of my screen. And it's going to be a good time, man. And like I said, I want Persona 3 to have its flowers. I want Persona 3 to succeed. Ignore anybody that complains about difficulty or comparison to Persona 5. Just ignore it. Just don't pay mind to that. Because at the end of the day, those people that like comparing Persona 5 were saying that Persona 5 is going to be is better than Persona 3 Reload, blah, blah. They're going to be the same people that's going to be buying and playing the game. Watch. And even Game Pass. Here's the crazy part. A lot more people is going to be playing it because it's free on Game Pass. So people's going to be picking up this game for like a month to like try out or however long they're going to have it on Game Pass. So, but majority of people that play Persona are on PlayStation and they're on PC. And which is another thing, which is why I think this game is going to sell so many copies. Persona 5 came out only for the PS4 during that time. You're talking about a Persona game that's coming out on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Now, they could have had their way with Switch, but thankfully, let's be honest, the Switch was going to hold this game back so much.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's crazy how we're in a timeline where now we're getting a Persona worldwide release on multi-platforms. Something that Persona 5 didn't do back then. So I really am curious to see how well this game does. I don't expect it to do crazy numbers, but it has the potential to do just as well as Persona 5 now that it has access to other platforms. So I'm ready for this game. I know Sakura is. We're going to be doing our things when the game comes out, and we're going to be back talking about it. Once everything's said and done, we're going to be talking about it. And oh boy, it's going to be such a spoiler fest because...
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, we got to let our feelings. We got to. It's like when people...
So you guys better be on top of it.
It's like, it's like similar to when Final Fantasy VII finally got its remake, which that's actually a very good comparison, honestly. If you were to compare something, compare it to Final Fantasy VII. Because people waited years for a remake for that game. And it was the hype train and like the build to it was exponential until the game finally came out. Everybody played it, and you just had everybody just talk about it. And now it's still being talked about because Rebirth is coming out. But Persona 3 is in the same golf park. It's like people is going to be talking about this game because it's going to be like, okay, well, is it as good as the original? Did it live up to that expectation? And then it's going to be talking points of like, what did they do better this time compared to back then? What is something that they shouldn't have added but has been added? Were the characters portrayed better this time around compared to back then? It's going to be a lot of talking points, and I will be here for it. Psych will be here for it. We're gonna talk about it. When that time comes, we're going to be talking about it because it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So I'm not worried about FMC. I'm not worried about the answer. If they surprise us with the answer, though, like we just don't know about, like they did add the answer, but they purposely didn't say it and made it think that it's just a vanilla game, I'll be shocked. But I don't think the answer is in here. I think they're keeping it to their word that the answer is nowhere to be found. They may have it as a DLC pack. FMC, I honestly think they might just re-release this game with FMC. However they do that, I don't know if they will invest money and time into that. That's why I think FMC is probably dead now. I think they want to just bury her, which is kind of unfortunate because she does have banging music on Portable. But
don't get that wrong.
Yeah, like she was the reason why there was more Persona 3 songs. But it is what it is. But yeah, I think overall this game will do great, and
Oh yeah.
I can't wait. So chat, and those watching this, how it's probably just gonna be uploaded as a fucking VOD at this point because this unironically this has become a podcast video at this point. I don't know if it should be edited. I'll see. I'll discuss it, but
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see. But point being, yeah. So, yeah. I don't know how to end this, but I know. Well, I'm gonna continue to talk about other things after this anyway. So, yeah. Can't wait for the game. Can't wait for Hertz or Persona 3 on my reload because so much nut is gonna be on the screen once I start touching this game.